Wow. Well, welcome to our very first Divine Connections broadcast where miraculous divine connections happen. I am Dr. Victoria Dunstan, and I am your host again for our very first live broadcast. Um, Today's broadcast, we're calling it the Single Journey. And I have a special consultant that I'm going to bring on first before my guest panelists come, and they're going to and they're going to share their journey, their experiences, and their expectations. And I am super excited. To be clear, this is not a dating show, it's not a hookup or anything like that. It's a platform for singles to share their journey, their experiences, and of course, they can talk about what they're looking for in a potential mate, and hopefully there will be a divine connection. Who knows? You know, the Bible declares that the steps of a good man have already been ordered by the Lord. So my first guest is a consultant. She is an international speaker. She is a DISC certified behavioral analyst. She's an expert facilitator, a creative consultant. She's an author, a singer. She's a powerhouse teacher. She is an apostle, a preacher of the gospel, and a dear friend of mine. And I am super excited to have her with me. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, Dr. Anya Miller Hall. Welcome, Dr. Hall.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. It is a blessing and an honor to be a part of your inaugural show. And I'm happy to be here, and I'm so thankful that you thought of me.
Well, again, thank you for accepting. And I know that you are also single, and I'd like to start off by giving you an opportunity to just talk to us a little bit about your single journey.
My journey was very strange because, I won't say strange, because a lot of people have the same journey that I have or similar. I was married at one time, quite some time ago, very long time ago, once upon a time, far away. But I did not marry in the right way, nor did I marry in a mature stance. I was young, I was extremely naive. And so I ended up going into an abusive marriage, an unequally yoked marriage, something I didn't understand at that time either. And so, of course, we separated very early in the marriage. I don't even think we were together. We may have been together 1 year, maybe 2, and then we separated and went our separate ways. I actually had to flee because of, the abuse. So over the years, I just stayed single, and I was afraid to trust men, and I was afraid to trust myself. I was afraid to trust men. I was afraid to trust my judgment and myself. So all of that kept me away from relationships, kept me away from marriage. And I had people try to hook me up with this one and hook me up with that one, or he's got a good job, or he's a preacher, he's a bishop, or he's just a good guy, or he's got a house, he's got a business. But my fear of being hurt, and then my suspicion that when you get hurt, you tend to look through the lens of suspicion. And I remember my daughter and my son would tell me, even if God sent someone, you're going to run them away, because if a man would speak to me, I would get the ugly face, I'd get, what you doing? Why are you speaking to me? I don't know you, and I didn't ask, I didn't say that by my whole demeanor, but it was a defense mechanism because of fear and because of trauma and hurt, past trauma and past hurt. So I didn't trust men. I didn't trust them. There were several reasons for that. It wasn't anything to do with, it was just, some things happened that caused me not to trust men. So, I was very naive, very easy to take advantage of because my parents were educators, but I didn't realize I was sheltered. We traveled all the time. So I was exposed to the world, I was exposed to travel, I was exposed to education. So I did not realize, oh yes, you're being exposed to these things, but you don't know anything about life, Precious Heart, because they wouldn't let me go to parties, they wouldn't let me go to the
Wow.
youth center, the dances and stuff. They said when I got to be 16, I could go. And when I got to be 16, they said no. They never let me go. So I had no experience. And so there are people who look at me like, you kidding. You just don't want to know. No, I'm serious. I was extremely naive, extremely. And so I would trust people at face value, meaning if you smiled at me and you said you like me, you're telling the truth, right? I mean, I'm like that. I'm telling you the truth because if I don't like you, I'm not going to have anything to do with you. So you must be okay. I just was extreme. I keep coming back to that, extremely naive. But as I went on and just learned life and learned some things in life, I had to address my fear and my apprehension and my disappointment and my anger and all of that. And my suspicion, and I began to do so. So I would say that I was probably in my late 30s when I actually started, late 30s, early 40s, when I actually started addressing those issues in me and stopped being fearful and angry when a man would speak to me. So I finally got to the place that if they say, hello, how are you doing? I could say, hi, how are you? If they say, you look nice, I could say thank you. Because I had to learn not to read anything in it. And when I say read anything, I mean nothing overt, nothing aggressive, assertive, or guess what? They're just saying hello. That's all they're saying. If they mean any other thing by it, and they can say that, and then I can respond accordingly. Yes, no, get out my face or whatever. Lift your hands and let me pray for you because something. Something. I could, or no, thank you. That's not. I can respond accordingly. So it took all those years. Now, remember, I got married when I was 18, 19.
Oh, wow.
And after 2 years, I was separated.
Wow.
And so it took me to my late 30s, early 40s just to get to that place. Now, I was still teaching, I was still singing and doing everything that I do, but that was my issue.
Uh-huh.
So finally I got over the men. Then I had to get over me because I was afraid in my early years in ministry about, I was like I said, I got married early, then I got separated early. So probably like 21, 22, something like that. I fell, in sin. I fell. And after that hurt me so bad because I sinned against God. That hurt me. See, some people that doesn't hurt. That hurt me because I sinned against God. And so I never wanted to do that again. That fear is one of the fears that kept me from, I don't want anything to do because I might, so all that time, outside of the problem, my perspective of men, then I had this fear of myself that I might. So one day, after I got over that, probably about another 5, 7, 8 years into my 40s, almost 50s, probably like early 40s, mid 40s, the Lord said something to me. He said, I would say more like mid 40s because I was coming up on 50, and I'm trying to giving away my age. I was coming up on 50, way back then. So I said, I was like, Lord, I'm tired of being afraid of me. I'm tired of being afraid of me. So he said something so simple because we make things more complex and more difficult than they are. And he said it's so simple.
In the midst of all of that, that you were going through, I know that at the time, you were already in ministry, correct?
Yes. Well, I've been in ministry from my youth when I was raised in the Missionary Baptist Church. Let the church say amen. We were singing, directing choirs, directing and singing in the Congress, which is what we call the Congress is the word for the convention. The convention Congress choirs, traveling to our national convention. We had already had singing groups and things like that, all from 6th grade. Okay, so
let me ask you this though. We have like some precious people waiting to come on too, and I want to ask them some questions. But before we do, I wanted to know from your perspective how the social distancing may have affected singles during this pandemic. I'd like to know a little bit about the psychological effects of what we're seeing play out in the media, in the lives of people that are suffering from depression, taking their own lives. And after having gone through everything that you went through and being single for an extended amount of time, even how it may have affected you personally.
Okay. In order to do that, I'm going to finish answering that question. Making that statement that I was making.
Oh, sorry.
What God said to me was, because it's simple, it's going to help somebody. We make things more difficult than they are. He said to me, number one, just do what you know you're supposed to do. Number two, do not do what you know you're not supposed to do. And number three, I'll handle the rest. This is what God said to me.
Wow.
When I was afraid, okay, well, what if and he said, it's just that simple. You have to make up your mind, commit to doing what you know you're supposed to do. Commit to not doing what you know you're not supposed to do. Just don't do it.
Right.
You might have to fight yourself, overcome yourself, discipline yourself, but you just don't do it. And number three, he said, anything else, I'll handle it. So even if something is stronger than you and you need deliverance and help and growth, but because you are trying, even if you fall, but because you're trying and your heart is after God, he's saying what? I'll handle it. I'll help you. Mm-hmm. So just get rid of all of this deep, I can't, you know what I mean? It's just that simple. Do what you know you're supposed to do. You know what you're supposed to do. Do that. You know what you're not supposed to be doing. Don't do that. And then let God handle the rest. And when he gave me that formula, it freed me because I committed to following that formula, and it has blessed me. And so as it relates to the trauma, we've been in pandemic, we've been in global unrest, we've been in economic challenges. It's important. I did some study just to make sure that I remembered the things that I know. But the thing about going through crisis, especially as a single, people have to understand that people have a social need. Even if you're a loner, if you're an introvert, you still have a social need. You might not need to see somebody but once a year, just to say hello, hang out, go out, and then you're like, I'm good for the next year. You still need that need met. So people have to have their social needs met, whatever those needs may be. Other people might be like me, I'm an extrovert. I get energy from people. I need to talk to people, speak to people, be around people. And guess what? And my love language is touch. Okay. Wow. So that's people. And so you have people who have different love languages. Sometimes they have words of affirmation. Well, if your love language is words of affirmation, and there's nobody there to give you words of affirmation. And let me just clarify this. Knowing your love and feeling your love are two different things. Knowing your love is just information, is intellectual knowledge. But feeling like your love is what gives you emotional fortitude. It causes you to have emotional wholeness and safety and stability. It affirms you. It confirms you. It gives you security and causes you to grow and mature emotionally. And if you don't have that, your emotional growth and development and maturation can be hindered, slowed, and stunted. It can actually sometimes end up being deformed or twisted, if I'll say that, damaged, that's a good word, damaged. And so everybody has some type of social need. We were created divinely like that. So whatever your social need is, it needs to be met. And when it's not met, there are, it can be very subtle. Some people it's overt, it comes out, boom. But most people it's very subtle. They don't notice it at first because what happens is your stress level rises, your stress hormones are being released, and it's affecting your brain. It's affecting your brain and your central nervous system because all of those stress hormones are just being released in your body continuously because you're under that undue stress because you're not getting the emotional needs that are met, and you think, oh, it's nothing, I'll just sit here and chill out on Netflix, or, or whatever, but it's really taking a toll on you. And so it can really bring about some problems in your arteries, your heart. I wrote down some things about that because I wanted people to know. Okay, stress hormones affect multiple body systems, eroding your arteries and your heart, creating high blood pressure, and undermining your ability to learn and remember. Your memory is affected, but it's kind of slow and subtle, so nobody realizes it. And just after a while, they'll be like, I can't remember, what was I talking about? I went to, I can't, or I'm this is not me. I can pick things up like this, and now I don't know, and I don't know, why I'm getting these headaches, or I'm feeling tired because your pressure's up. You hadn't even noticed it. That causes inflammation in the joints and the body. I mean, stress hormones can cause problems with breathing on top of COVID, So these things can happen, and you can be traumatized. And so you can also end up, like, when this is over, there are going to be people who have post-traumatic stress disorder from this experience. And so certain things are going to trigger them. Even now, some people are being triggered. So you have to know yourself. You have to know and identify your triggers and dismantle them, because there's a way to overcome this. But identifying it, you got to sit down and just identify why you're so irritable, why you're so tired, why you're so fatigued, why can't you remember? I'm not doing it. I can't, because of it's an underlying stress. Some people, they grabbed it, they got the stress, and it's really overt. You can see it. But a lot of people trying to keep it together are suppressing, and there's an underlying stress. So that can really affect you.
Well, we're going to talk with you a little bit more. So I want you to hang on. And I want to let some of my panelists come on and respond. So we're going to bring you back on in just a few minutes, okay? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I have some really special guest panelists that are waiting to come and share their journey. And I'm going to bring them all on at the same time. First, I'd like to introduce Miss Ashley Cole, Miss Veronica Pizarro, and Minister Terry Courts. And so I'm going to allow them all to introduce themselves. And as they introduce themselves, just tell us in 60 seconds or less who you are, so we can respond to all the information that Dr. Hall has provided for us. So let's start with you at the top. Everybody can unmute your mics, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Ashley Gibbs. I am based in Atlanta, Georgia. Well, actually Norcross. I work for the city. I'm a school bus driver. Also, I am an administrative assistant. I'm a mother of two, and of course, I am single. That is why I am here to talk about my journey.
Okay. All right. Next.
Hi, my name is Veronica. I am not working right now. I'm actually a student. I went back to school to finish my bachelor's in administrative business administration. And I'm single, of course, and I have no children.
No children. All right, we have one great gentleman, Minister Terry Courts. Come on, bring it. Tell us all of what you do.
Well, I'm Minister Terry Courts. I reside in Stone Mountain, Georgia. I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan, father of two beautiful teenage daughters. So I also bring a perspective of having girls that I raised. I am the owner of Global Medical Gear and Enhanced Health Services. So I'm just a successful business person that's single, navigating through being a divorced man as opposed to a guy that runs the street for his living and lifetime. So it's a difference, and it's a challenge when you have a different expectation on dating, and we'll get into that. But it's a privilege to be. Oh, and of course, I'm a man of God first and foremost as a minister.
Well, Minister Terry, let's kind of start with you because there's this misconception out there that men are not really looking for, you know, that person, or there are few men out there that are really seriously available. Um, what would you say if somebody made that kind of statement about you?
The problem is men and women are identical, and our situations are identical. And I believe that um, as things have evolved, in my opinion, there are times where a woman may have the tendencies that are ironically given to men, or they believe that their journey is different. There's men that really want a significant other. And then there's guys that just want to run the streets and play the field. But as you get older and you mature, um, the goal usually will be the same. The problem is the journey is more difficult as you get older than when you're younger. The first doctor, was that Dr. Hall?
Yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Hall said it best. When you're immature, when you're naive, when you're bumping your head through love, we make a lot of poor decisions and bad mistakes. But as you mature spiritually and emotionally, men and women will progress into that space of looking at a long-term relationship or that true significant other. And any man that has been married for a significant amount of time, he's already kind of like bidding the apple. He wants that again, but it's hard to obtain that sometimes.
Now, why would you say it's hard to obtain it? I know thousands of single women out there that are looking for Minister Terry Courts, somebody just like yourself that understand the maturity piece, that's a man of God, that has their own business, financially stable. How can it be difficult?
That's a loaded question. Do you really want me to be transparent?
Yeah, I want you to be transparent.
Okay. A lot of times, in my opinion, when you get to a certain level, the role has shifted by then. The woman has given up the ability to say, I would like a man in my life, or I want a man, or, it evolves to I don't need a man. And when that shift happens, then a lot of times they have become their own self-sufficient being. And not only being self-sufficient, it's also evolved into a space where their tolerance level is lower and their experiences have jaded them or allowed them to have a lower ability for trying to work things out. It's either it's going to work, or I guess the best way of putting it is we all tend to give up a lot easier now than we used to. The first red flag, we run. Women typically will run now, as opposed to trying to figure out the dynamics. If there's a red flag, whether it's relevant or not, they would tend to use past experiences to determine if they're going to continue trying to be pursued, I guess. And I think that's the other thing, is that the dating has definitely evolved into something that is not what I would say old school or what we used to do. It's definitely, I kind of look at it like if you went to prison and you come out 30 years later and you went in 1970, now you come out in 2020 and you're like, what is this and where am I? That's how I equate to dating now. It's like, this is nothing like it was.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I think for myself, I'm quite a bit older than each of you. And can you imagine back in the Stone Ages when I was dating, and now coming forth in the 21st century? I mean, it is like a real learning curve for me. Veronica, hearing what Minister Terry has just said, what would you like to add to that?
Well, there was a point that you spoke of just now in reference to red flags and women running away, and I can definitely attest to that in a sense because I recently was trying the whole um, online dating, and um, I myself came from my past and abuse and stuff like that. So it's been a few years that I've been single. So I went back in and gave it a chance, and it was kind of hard for me to like really allow someone to like get to know me to an extent because I was always looking for the underlying meaning of what they were saying or doing. Like it was like a picture perfect cookie cutter thing. And I realized that was the wrong thing to do. You have to allow yourself to get to know the person. You have to allow yourself to listen to what they have to say. And according to their actions, judge accordingly, not accordingly to what you believe you see. Yeah.
Ashley, I know I've talked to you quite a bit, and you're at a place, if I'm correct, where you're not really ready for a relationship right now. Is that true? And if it is, why?
Yes, I'm definitely, that's correct. I'm definitely not looking for a relationship or ready for a relationship. I just feel like at the point that I'm in right now, I'm very self-focused. There's some things that I need to work on. And I feel like, it would be a conflict with bringing somebody else in because they'll have their own thing. And I know that I'm stuck on a path that I'm not getting off of anytime soon. So, I mean, to bring somebody into that and ask them to conform would not be, fair to them and not me wanting to compromise. Because at this point, I feel like there's not really no compromise with me right now.
With certain things, right? Yeah. You want to respond to that, Minister Terry?
I don't want to seem like I'm being contrary, but I would say that's another area that I often see, which is personal journeys, I'll call it that. So a lot of women have had a bad experience or they've dealt with a breakup or a divorce, and men as well. And what we do is we tend to say, at this point in my life, I'm taking my life back. And that's kind of what happens. It's like, I've submitted for a woman. They may say, I've submitted. I tried to be a good wife. I tried to do this, that, and the other. So now it's all about me. In certain scenarios, my kids are almost grown and I've raised my children. I've been dedicated to a man that was unfaithful or whatever he was, abusive. So now I'm going to go back and do some of the things and I'm not going to, and I can quote her, I'm not going to be driven off of my path right now. I'm not going to compromise. And I think what happens sometimes when that occurs is that the one that is God sent, no one knows the day nor the hour, right? So we don't have a timeline. We don't know when he's going to come, but we have to be available. And it's almost like putting up a sign that says, we're closed right now. So when a woman says, I'm closed right now, but yet she's saying, you know what, I didn't meet this guy that my Boaz, right? I didn't meet him. Well, part of that happened because at that particular time, I wasn't open for business. My store hours were closed. My mind was closed. My heart was closed. My wall was, better than Trump's wall. It was 30 feet high. So it's just.
But you are available, right? You are interested in meeting somebody at this juncture in your life, correct?
You know where I am?
Where are you?
No expectations.
No expectations.
And what I mean by that is it starts with a friend and then it will, that's your seed that you plant. When you start trying to, I guess, drive the car before you even learn how to drive, that's when you start having problems. So I've gone back to the basics. If it's just a hello, how was your day? That's a starting point as opposed to trying to plan Well, I'm 46. So I'm right there at the cusp where I'm not really interested or looking to have children anymore. If a woman that I married wanted a child, then I would be open to that. But that's not, my mindset now. It's not like, hey, let me get married, I have a family, a white picket fence, a dog, a 2-car garage. I mean, it's transcending into what it is. This is as good as it's gonna get. One day I'll be a grandfather. Hopefully not soon, but that's how I look ahead. But I'm also looking at, I'm a single man. I live alone, no kids with me, no significant other. So that changes, even with Corona, it really exacerbates the situation. It allows you to be like, wow, I got to change this. I don't want this, to be my 10, 20 years from now. So.
Right. So did you answer my question? Are you open to meet somebody? Or?
Of course.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm what I was just saying is that I don't make expectations on women anymore, because that's when you make a mistake. If and that's another thing that runs people off, is if you're too aggressive, like, hey, I'm ready to get married, I'm ready to settle down. So what my motto is just I'm open, I'm available, and I'm willing to pursue the options that are available.
Actually, do you have a checklist of the ideal person for you? And I'll ask each of you that question.
Really don't. I think one of the main things for me at this point in my life is, I think I've expressed this before, is that like I said, I'm not willing to compromise. And one of those things would being like who I follow spiritually. I mean, we have to be somewhere compatible in that essence. Either they follow the same person or they're mature in their own level on that same degree. But I really don't, as far as coming with a house, car, things like that, no. But I would say the only other thing is having the same work ethic that I have. Like, I've worked multiple jobs, before, and a lot of people that I've dated or even talked to, they were always chilling, and while I'm at work, they're texting me, and it kind of was something that was very irritating to me, because I'm like, why aren't you doing anything more productive? You're not having any conversations about what you want to do with your future. It's like things like that. But as far as having anything materialistic, no, not at all.
But you're still kind of young too, so you got a lot of time to kind of, work towards some things. So I understand what you say when you say that you're, working on yourself, and when you talk about your spiritual leader, you want somebody who will adapt to your spiritual father, and
Exactly.
That's a non-negotiable.
Non-negotiable. Yeah.
You're not gonna go looking for another dad, a spiritual father. Okay. Veronica, do you have a checklist?
In terms of personality, or
in terms of what are you looking for? Personality, work, height, are any of those things necessary in order for you to say, hey, I really like or would not like this particular type of thing?
Well, I do want a tall guy. I like tall. But for me, most importantly, one of the criteria that I want them to have is to have a deep connection with God, a relationship with God. Because I feel like a lot of people, well, from what I've noticed, and I don't want to be judgmental or anything like that, but there's a difference between having a surface relationship with God and then having a real true relationship with God. And I want someone that I can grow in that aspect with him, that we could build together and we can make moves together, and we're ready in that way. But in terms of personality, I need to have a sense of humor, laugh with me, joke around with me, have goals and have aspirations. Don't tell me, okay, today I'm working at Walmart and that's all I want to do for the rest of my life. No, I want someone who's entrepreneurship minded. Like, we're going to build something together. And as long as they fall under those things, I am open. Nationality, I used to be very specific in nationality. I was, but God opened up my mind to other things. And
Veronica, you're Hispanic. Should they be Black or did they have to be Hispanic in the days of old?
no, no, they don't have to be Hispanic. I'm open to other races. Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm just checking, just making sure. Some people just, they want brown people like them. I don't care what kind of brown, as long as you're brown. Uh, of course, when you get older, all the external stuff is not going to be as important.
Yes.
Like I said, you guys are still kind of young. And so those may be big things for you right now. Minister Terry, what about you? Do you have a criteria checklist for the ideal woman for yourself?
It changes with each woman. I mean, every woman is so uniquely different that the physical attributes, every woman possesses a different attribute. And so I don't really look at those things as much as the cornerstones of their heart. I used to always say that I wanted my number one cheerleader. And what I mean by that is, a man, as an African American man, we've got a lot of stuff on our shoulders. So I don't want to come home and get more stuff put on my shoulders. I want someone when I get home to be able to say, baby, come home. I'm glad you're here. I want to be able to want to go home. There's a point in a relationship that I was in where I didn't want to go home because when I got there, it was just another anticipated argument or anticipated battle. And when you do that as a man and you're fighting the world, at home, I don't want to fight again. You really have to understand that this racism and everything. As a man, women deal with it as well. But when you have to swallow your pride and bite your tongue and make sure that you don't go to jail sometimes for just really letting people get what they deserve, right? As a Black male, we get tested a lot. And so I don't want to argue, fuss, fight, be emasculated. I remember the little nursery rhyme where they said, girls are made with sugar and spice and everything nice, right?
Right.
But I'm looking for, I don't need another dude to date. A hard woman. I want a soft woman because that's what you nurture. You can't nurture a hard woman because, if she is going at you toe to toe like she's a man, then you don't get to pamper her the way she feels that she should be pampered because she has almost allowed herself to be treated in such a way that it is disrespect. So that's my key. It's a respectful woman, a woman I can trust, depend on, my cheerleader. Just, if you could tell me, baby, go do it, I'll go to war. But I don't need someone telling me we can't do it. I just need a partner. I need somebody, that when I come home, and I'm not saying I'm going to come home and cook. I'm not chauvinistic. I can cook. I'm a chef. So I can cook my own food. You know what I'm saying? I can cook for you. I'm just saying that we do things as a team, as a true partnership. God has ordained the covenant to be. And when we stop trying to determine how much you bring to the table, how much I bring to the table, and just say we bring it all to the table together, that mindset changes the relationship by not trying to keep track of what you did versus what I did, but we did together. So that's what I'm looking for.
That's great. Veronica, are you open to a relationship outside of your city?
Outside of my city, I really pretty much would prefer to have it within. And if it's outside, because My experience with long distance relationships hasn't been the best, so I would prefer within my own vicinity. Yes.
What about, well, actually, I don't want to ask you because I know you're not really like, well, I know that you would be interested in someone outside of your city because of our conversation. If they came from even another country, if they were connected to your same spiritual covering.
Yeah, yeah, I wouldn't mind anything like that. Once I was looking, that'd be fine.
What about you, Minister Terry? What about?
I've done long distance relationships. They're not sustainable. They're great for short term purposes, but at a certain point, there has to be a relocation option. And I'm not saying that the man has to move or the woman has to move, but there has to be. You can't do it for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. It can be short term, 3 months, 6 months, but then somebody needs to, if you're, dating with a purpose, and if you are considering a serious commitment, my love language, if you know your love languages, mine is quality time and physical touch. So you can't set yourself up for failure because in the absence of quality time, if that's your language, then it's going to cause issues. It's going to cause a divide. Um, and that's part of this whole dating process as well is knowing your deal breakers. So short term, yeah. But women have issues as well as far as they may have a younger child that's in school, so they may not be able to relocate or start a life somewhere else. And so that would be my ownage. I would have to determine if that's something that, anytime you relocate, that's a commitment. You're very vulnerable. If it doesn't work out, you just upset your whole, world. You have to make sure that the communication is solid. You have to make sure that trust, and all those variables. And you have to be willing to make sacrifices to see each other as often as possible. And that's what I had to do in my long distance relationship. If you don't do that, stagnant water, everything dies.
Mhm.
Do you know your love language, Ashley?
Yeah, it's very similar to what he said. Mine's is quality time and touch as well.
Veronica?
Yes, I need that person to be with me as often as I can have them with me. Yes.
So quality time, does that mean physical or can that be video chatting? Can that be phone call?
For me, in my experience with long distance relationships, the problem was yes, it's all nice if we're having beautiful conversations over the phone, seeing each other on video, but I really, for it to be sustained long period of time, I need to see them a few times or more during the year. Because if not, I'm going to feel like I'm missing them too much, or I feel like, something's missing, like I can't handle them being away from me for too long. So that's why when people ask me, are you open for long distance? It's like to an extent, because it's at one point or another, there's someone has to relocate and someone has to move. And that has to be made aware in the very beginning of what would be the possibilities. I don't want to invest my emotions and then it be thrown out the window because we're not working out because of the distance.
Okay. Deal breakers. You brought Minister Terry. What are deal breakers for you?
Cheating.
Okay.
I think that's a universal deal breaker, men and women. And I don't really think women sometimes give the credit that they cheat too, right? Cheating is unisex, right? And I'm going to even take it a step further. And when I preach, sometimes I say, cry loud and spare not. So I've just got to make it as plain as possible. Even in alternative situations or scenarios, if you follow me. Even if a male-female relationship and you choose as a female to have a female relationship, I still think that's cheating. And some women don't, or they discard. I mean, it's just, I mean, we get into a whole nother level of a subject, but I'm just, that to me still, you're not mine and I'm not yours. There's a third person. And anytime there is other people that are involved, distraction is your destruction, right? So that's the deal breaker. The arguing spirit, that's a deal breaker. I don't argue. I have so much peace, and you're not going to steal my peace. You know, we can talk about it later. We can talk about it at a better time when we are able to communicate. Arguing is not communicating, and I'm just not trying to have a heart attack or a stroke and all this other stuff from a high level of stress every day when it can be avoided with just real conversation. So that's really my two deal breakers. And then I think the last deal breaker would just be financially irresponsible. I was raised where you have one bank account. My mom and dad were married 49 years. They didn't argue over money. You know, my dad was always like, hey, if I come in, I turn the light switch on, the lights are working, everything's good. The moment that stops happening, we got an issue, right? And so I feel the same way. I'm not going to count what you spend and how you spend it, but we need to be living in a progressive mindset that it's not all about how much materialistic things you can accumulate. You know, I want, my significant other to feel and look and have the things that will make her feel as a woman. But I think that still has a financial responsibility that we store things, that we prepare for our future, prepare for retirement, prepare for the uncertainties of financial terms. Nobody could expect that you need 6 months right now of income. And that's what's happening. And a lot of people are still spending stimulus checks and everything else. And we've talked about this, that it's just, they're not saving it, they're blowing it. And the job industry is getting ready to shift. So I want somebody that is fluid enough to be on the same plan that I'm on. So that's the other deal breaker. If we can't be on one accord, if we can't be subscribing to the same financial plan and life goals.
Wow.
Oh, I'm sorry. Last thing.
Okay.
The other deal breaker, right? My spirituality. If there's no relationship there, atheist, that's the deal breaker for me. I just I respect your decision, and I always say to them, well, one of us is right and one of us is wrong. So we'll just find that out later, right?
What about you ladies, deal breakers? Either
You said either one of us?
Yeah, you're getting a lot of responses, Minister. A lot of people are really commenting, and I can see the comments coming. I have Facebook and Periscope and LinkedIn. All of those are streaming, so I can see the comments. So you're getting a lot of comments. Ladies, deal breakers.
Deal breaker. I don't like arguments at all. I'm a very peaceful person. I'm very quiet. Like when I have something to say, I do say it, but I approach you in a respectful way to see if that's the right time to have that conversation. It's something that the minister was talking about. A lot of women don't realize you have to be, mindful of your time and when you're trying to approach, your significant other with a conversation. And so I'm very mindful of that. And I ask for that in the same. If you just feel like just because you're the the man or whatever, you can come in when I'm doing something, that's a deal breaker for me. Another deal breaker for me is being unequally yoked. But when I say that, I don't mean like saved and unsaved. I mean, we can both be saved, but our spiritual growth might be at two different levels. You might have a opposing view or doctrine that goes against what I've been taught or what I believe. Or that your faith be at another level and that we need to believe God for something, and your level is not there. And so it's just kind of like that conflict thing. I need this to happen. You kind of like, I don't see how it's going to happen. I mean, I think God will do it, but this right here, this one's a little tough. Like things like that, that's a deal breaker for me. I already touched on the work ethic part. If you don't have a very good, strong work ethic, that's a deal breaker. Also, jealousy. I've been in very toxic relationships where, I understand jealousy to a certain extent, but when you go off the handle just from somebody just looking at you too long, you're like, oh, you must know this person or something like that.
Right.
And it turns into a big argument because you feel like I'm getting all much attention. That's a deal breaker.
Okay. Veronica?
Well, for me, it's respect. If you do not respect one another and the level that you speak to each other, I feel like you should consider each other's opinion, consider each other's placement, and speak to each other accordingly, not trying to be more than or try to treat less than. It should be equal. Second would be a person who's not reliable. You tell me you're going to be there, and then you're not. So it's kind of like, I need to know that I can trust and depend on you when I need you, And then, of course, jealousy. I do not like an overly jealous person. It makes me feel suffocated. It makes me feel like you're not trusting me in my who I am. But yeah.
Okay. I'm going to do something I didn't anticipate. I'm going to give you an opportunity to ask me one question each. And hopefully this will spice up things a little bit. Ashley.
Okay. My question for you is, how in you being single, how have you been able to balance, wanting to find somebody and also realizing, I have to keep my own thing going, like as being an entrepreneur that you are?
Oh, wow. That's a good question as well. How have I been able to balance finding somebody and yet doing all the things that I do? Well, a lot of times I don't tell people all the things that I do initially. I just only give them as much as I think that they can handle at that particular time. In terms of me trying to balance it, I want to get to know the person, and in getting to know the person, I know if they have the capacity sometimes to handle what it is that I'm bringing to the table. And so, I might talk about some of the easier things first, and hopefully that'll allow a person to really be themselves, and then bring the heavier things on once I see that it's really, really serious, because it can be, it can be a challenge sometimes, So for me, I definitely like to meet people. I like to have a lot of friends. I like to talk to people, but I don't always let people in. So they're telling me we have a lot of comments on my page, but I can't see them. But I hope, did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Veronica.
What would be the advice you would give to a single woman or single Christian woman who has been dealing with singleness for a long time? What would be your advice to them?
My advice, I don't know if I should be giving advice because I've been single for about 5 years. But my take on it would be work on yourself and start to attract to yourself what you really want. I wouldn't be so focused on meeting somebody as I would be becoming the person that in my mind that I would imagine that would be, compatible with me. So all the old baggage, all of the things that happened in the past, all of the old relationships, making sure all those doors are closed and being open enough to be vulnerable, to let the person see, hey, yeah, there are some things that I've gone through, there are some things that I survived, but I'd like to present the best version of myself to you, because for me, the commitment is forever. I mean, there is no way out for me. So if I give myself to that person, I want to make sure that they also would give themselves to me, and I mean, openly, emotionally, and being vulnerable. Also, I've learned in my single life to get past all of the externals. I've learned how to become friends with guys, even some guys that I may have been attracted to, but not maybe connected to, you know. And because I have decided not to compromise in my sexuality, a lot of times, people are attracted to you, and then when they hear that, they're like, well, hey, let's see how that worked for you. I've actually had that kind of conversation, and I'm not moved by it. And I'm also not moved by the fact that somebody decides that I'm not their choice, because I don't want to be with somebody, who, at the end of the day, they don't like you and they don't really want to be with you, and you just want to be with somebody just because you're going through the COVID and the pandemic, and you've been by yourself. You got to kind of know, through conversation and getting to know somebody what the best choice would be for you. And you got to be willing to walk away from things that are toxic, no matter how much you want it, even if you have to cry all night long, so long to me, in some cases, could mean saving your life and your destiny and years and years and years of life. I want somebody who has done the work, period. We all, at my age, everybody comes with some sort of baggage, but have they done the work? Are you still paying for something somebody else has done? I don't think that's fair to you as a single, and I don't think that's fair to a gentleman that you might bring into your life. That's kind of my stance. All right, Minister Terry, I've got more questions,
Well, I'm going to go. You ready?
Yeah.
You danced around it, but I like to just shoot a straight arrow at the bullseye. So let's go for it. There's a rumor that men are sexual. So wanting to be celibate and dating is a challenge.
Yes.
And in your opinion, do you start the conversation off from hi, I'm celibate, or do you wait 30 or 60 days and then pop it on this guy that now is really interested in you, or you're really interested in him? So when is the best time to have that type of conversation to determine the direction of that relationship? Because some men will wait, some men won't. And then, and I'm a man, so I'll be honest with you. Some brothers will actually test you to just see if they can prove that they can take the celibacy. So with all those scenarios, come right out with it. See, I told you I'm gonna be real with this. Right?
For me, the moment that I feel that the person is trying to take me in that direction is when I'm gonna talk, when I'm gonna share, because I don't think it's fair to that person to think that they're gonna, that they're gonna have an experience that I'm not gonna allow them to have. I think I'd rather end it early. If they're not gonna wait and they're not gonna give me the time, I'd rather tell them up front and see. It's like dropping dynamite. Let me just see if they're gonna come back. And in some cases they do, in some cases they don't, and in some cases it has nothing to do with the sexual part. It's just that you're just not compatible with that individual, or maybe you are compatible, but they're no fun. I want somebody that makes me laugh, somebody that want to have fun. I'm for my age, I'm very active, so I want to go. I want to go to Stone Mountain and climb that mountain. I want to go walking. I want to ride bikes. I hope I answered your question.
You did almost, but I'm going to redirect you. When is the best time? In the beginning, right up front, or do you do it? I think you said when that emotion arises, or do you do it later on in the conversations, or do you just start out the conversation in the beginning saying, by the way, I'm celibate, is that going to be an issue with you? I'm asking that for a reason, just because I think that is definitely by my spiritual walk, I have no issue with it, but I know that there's a lot of men that have a maturity level that they do not respect that type of commitment to God. Right? That's ultimately what it is. But we're in a microwave society.
Right. Recently I watched a whole series. I did a binge watch series watching night of Married at First Sight. And the way that it works is you don't meet the person you're going to marry until you get to the altar. And they put you through all of this compatibility thing, and they match you based on compatibility. Well, I just had to keep watching it till I got to the end, because there was a lady on there that was committed to celibacy, and she was 27 and she had never, had sexual intercourse. In the end, the guy didn't choose her. He didn't say why. He didn't choose to stay married to her, even though they were perfectly compatible. They had a lot of fun together. They did a lot of things together, but she just wasn't ready within the 8-week time that they had to make the decision. I had to look at that, and I had to realize and recognize that, we're dealing with a different generation, a different type of people, that years ago when we were taught to be celibate and to wait and, and all of that stuff. I've watched some very prominent ministers that put people on their platforms like this to tell people to test the waters, and I think dealing with the emotional effects of that kind of decision has to be explained as well, because there are some people who, when they give themselves to somebody in that way, they don't sleep around, and they're giving everything that they are, and then if it don't work out, then they're devastated. They have soul ties. They can't always.
Yeah.
Am I still dancing around it?
No, I said soul ties. Yeah.
And so I think the moment that the person tries to go in that sexual direction, I think you have an obligation to share with them so that they will know and that they can decide, is this person valuable enough for me to take this kind of chance? That because you're not going to know how they are sexually, to take this kind of chance, that there's so many other good qualities that they have, that I believe that they'll do everything that's necessary to make sure that sexual experience, is equally as great, but you would have to know that from that person. I'm thinking from the show that the young man could never tell because she didn't have the ability to be vulnerable. She couldn't be intimate in her conversation in terms of sharing with him certain things that had happened even in her life. Everything was superficial. So she was a great person, but he never really could get to know her because of the wall. Like if they asked her a question like, reveal to your spouse something that has happened to you that was really embarrassing. And it had to be like, it's supposed to be deep seated. And she said she swallowed a quarter, And you would think, how do you expect for him to understand that you don't really have a problem being sexual? You know? So I think there's a difference between being celibate and people who actually have a problem with sex. You know,
Agreed.
and I think that needs to be discussed. And I think that for a man or a woman, because you could have a man who's in the same situation. So hopefully I answered your question. I don't know why I put myself out there like that, but hey, it wasn't on my paperwork. So you answer your question, sir.
It's well.
As well. Yeah. All right. Well, this is a part of the show where, well, actually it's supposed to be 1 hour, but we went over a little bit, where I like to see, in some cases, in an ideal situation, I would have had 6 people on here. And the reason why Divine Connection is the name of the show or the broadcast is because I'm hoping that people would hear enough about each other that there's a divine connection, and maybe they like to meet, or they like to, go to Starbucks or something and get to know each other a little bit better. Of course, I'd be happy to at least give $100 toward making that happen. And I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but if any of you on the panel today if you're interested in one of the panelists, getting to know them a little better, then let me know after the show. Or Dr. Anya is also available. Maybe she said that ahead. But there are people watching. There are people out there that's watching that may be, interested in one of you. But even if they're not here, you never know who's going to see this broadcast. And one of the things about being single is that everybody goes to their same little circles and do their same little things, and then they expect to meet somebody great. But you took a huge chance by stepping out where many people would never step out and put themselves out there for whatever reason. You've done that. And at least 2 of you are interested in meeting somebody. And like I said, we have people that's going to watch tomorrow and next week, people that are watching on all these social media platforms. And you just never really know. And I think it would be a big disservice not to at least say that, give you an opportunity to meet somebody. So again, if you're interested, you can contact us at info@bosslady-network.com. Ashley is number 1. Veronica's in slot number 2. And then have the great brother, Minister Terry Courts in number 3. And all you ladies, don't you inbox me all at once. I want to say.
I think that we may need to have a couple more male panelists to balance out.
Only brave soul that I could get to take the challenge. I had a lot of people who said they would do it, and then when it got close to time, they kind of backpedaled a little bit. But I have some male friends that owe me a favor, and I have got to get them on here. And I may do just one-on-one with some of them. But I want to say thank you so much for all 3 of you for being here. And I'm going to put you back in the waiting room if you can hold on until we finish. I'd like to say something to you as I bring Dr. Anya back on the screen. Dr. Anya, did you hear all of that?
Hello, I'm here.
Hi, did you hear all of that?
Oh yes, that was a lot. But they all had some valid concerns and valid points, and then you had great insight. And I wanted to make mention of, as the minister said, that it's a microwave society. But one of the problems is that if you know, we know we're in a microwave society, but you have to know that the flavor and the seasoning is best in that thing that is slow cooked. So because you must value yourself and your life and your purpose so much that you refuse to allow yourself to be microwaved in a relationship because getting to know people really takes time. Now 5 years is too long, 3 years, you already know it take a little long, it don't take quite that long to know if the person that you're speaking to and interested is somebody that you might want to continue on and start a life with. So being very open. When I say open, I don't mean you need to tell all of your intimate, darkest secrets at first, but who you are. So to me, knowing, I wrote down some notes. You told me to take some notes. So there are things like your purpose. I think we talked about this on the phone. Purpose compatibility is one of the biggest things. Spiritual compatibility, that's we call equally yoked. That means you're mature in God. Like me, I'm an apostle. I'm a fivefold ministry gift. Okay, you may not be that, but you are mature and you're seasoned and you're sound in God. There are certain things that you've already, now when I say this, when I say mastered, I don't mean you don't make mistakes here and there. But what I mean is, I'll use the analogy of school. If you're in, first grade and you're learning addition, a middle schooler or a high schooler, something that's going to be unequally yoked. Because I'm over here doing fractions, come on, algebra, and you want me to come back and deal with your addition. It's nothing wrong with you learning addition, and there's nothing wrong with you doing addition. I have to ask myself, if that's something that I'm willing to do, how long am I willing to do that? Because everybody grows at a different rate. So just because you can process something just like this and you got it, and this person, you've been dealing with the same issue 3, 4, 5 years, come on, and you're frustrated. But that's where they were when you met them. But you thought you could fix them. You have to understand, you can't fix anybody. People have to want to, as you said, put the work in, and then you have to see their rate of growth. So looking at maturity, where are we in life? What is it that you want out of life? Vision. Do you have a vision for not only yourself, spiritually and financially, and it has to do with your purpose and destiny? If we come together as, what is the vision for us? This new corporation, this new entity, and how do our purposes enhance and complement each other? Because it doesn't mean we have the same purpose, but our purposes should be complementary. They should enhance and entwine each other. That's what compatibility. Our purposes must be compatible. What about our personalities? Are our personalities compatible? There are people who love to fight. They're in love with the person that they love to fight with, because they're always fighting. Because the thing that was most compatible was their chemical sexual attraction. They are dynamite in the bed, baby, honey. Oh yeah. But after that, they can't get along. They cannot get along. So, okay. Is your peace of mind worth, 5, 10, 15 hours, however long however long you may have sexual intercourse? Is your complete life peace is worth that? Some people are incompatible financially. That doesn't mean that they're all both rich, but they don't have the same moral values. They don't have the same moral core values. They don't have the same financial values and core. I'm not talking about someone is just not that good with money, but they still want to be disciplined, say, we're going to go do this, we're going to do that. Oh yeah, she's better with the money, so I let her handle it. Or he's better with the money, but that's different. But I'm talking about some people don't have, they just, how about risk taking? Are you a risk taker, or are you trying to be attracted to someone who's a risk taker and you are always playing it safe, baby? I am not jumping off any cliffs. I am not taking any risks. And so you're always in a state of, what did you just do? What happened to the money or whatever? So I'm talking about compatibility. I'm talking about compatible purposes, compatible personalities, compatible spirituality, financial, vision, even sometimes your families, and that's not always necessary, but it is still a major part, because if you're a family person, then you want your families to get along, and not, they don't have to love each other, but can they meet without shooting each other, cussing each other, fight breaking out, oh my gosh, so these types of things are important. And that takes time. And so to answer Minister, what's his name, Courtney?
Minister
I can't hear you.
Minister Terry.
Okay, Ministers Terry, I think you said his question is, and you answered it perfectly, like when that comes up, but sometimes it doesn't come up, and I understand what he's saying, because sometimes you're just trying to, get to know the person, and you building a relationship, so you're thinking, I'm gonna just bide my time, then I'll make my move, because hey, we really care about each other. We've gotten to that place where, I look at her, she looks at me, we got that little twinkle going on. I know she ready, I know he want this, when do you say, and then you're like, whoa, what's going on? And we've been dating for 6 months, we've been dating for 8 months. But before you get to that, as you get to know each other, like when you get to the place where you say, well, what do you do? Like for me, what do you do? I might talk about what I do. So how important, you ask questions, how important is what you do to you? What do what's your personal insight? And if you listen, we listen to understand. When
Right.
you listen, then you're able to say, so what do you mean by, you ask questions is what I'm saying. You ask questions. What do you mean by you're seriously a Christian? What do you mean by you all in? What does that mean? What does that look like? And you can tell people I'm not being funny. I'm not being intrusive, but I need to understand. And in other words, what's your standard?
Right.
What's your standard? What's your core value? What are your core values? These things have to be discussed, because then you can say, you know what? Yeah, I like you. You're interesting, and I hope we can be friends. But they might even be a Christian, but they might say, I'm not there yet. I got to have a little bit every now and then. I know it ain't right. You pray for me here, but I'm just letting you know. I'm just letting you know what's gonna happen. Because when you can be, it's the same thing with God. If you can be transparent with God, if you can be honest with God, like He doesn't know your heart anyway. Yes, He does. And you can say, God, in this area, I am not disciplined. I want it. I'm telling you right now, and I'm going to get it. And I know you said not to, so guess what I need you to do, God? I need you to help me with that. I'm going to try to put forth some effort, but right now I don't even have any strength to withstand that. But if you help me and tell me what to do, I will gain my strength and I will be able to withstand it. But as it stands up right now, see, and then you can get an understanding. You can, like you said, no. We're not giving away the goods, boo. All right, no sampling over here. Praise the Lord. Hallelujah. It's good stuff. I'm just letting you know, but we don't, it costs too much. This value, you can't put a value. Who can find a virtuous woman? Her price is what? Her price is what?
Wow.
You just, okay. All right. And there can be virtuous men. There are men who have been celibate, and women just be throwing themselves and coming. I've heard the stories. I know, they need prayer and they come and they just start naked and just tempting them. And so it can go both ways. And I know men that just left them just like they was, and they can't believe they turned this down, honey. Yes, because they have a moral standard. And you have to, what did Maya Angelou say? When people tell you who they are, believe them. So I think all of you had some valid points, and really, especially when you say you got to know yourself, heal yourself, learn that know your wounds, because you don't want to afflict those things on other people. So it's okay to tell someone, listen, let me say something to you. I'm still healing from this. I'm still healing from that. You don't need, if you know you are not healed and the slightest thing will trigger you, you do not need to enter into a relationship, because you get ready to hurt, not continually to damage yourself, and you get ready to damage somebody else who had nothing to do with whatever happened to you back then. So you do not need to. You're going to always have issues. We all do, but you need to know where you are. So if you're at a place, and sometimes you don't know, you might say, okay, I'm ready. And somebody just might do one thing or say something that just triggers you, and you just, baby, not quite yet.
I think too, Dr. Anya, a lot of times people believe that they could be healed in a certain area, because in my journey, there were times that I thought this would never affect me again. And it did. And I think you have to have a person in your life that is able to understand you know, that you're not stuck there, but you did have something just happened that show you that, you
We
know,
still want healing.
yeah, can you help me? Can you help walk me through it and not use it against me to
Yeah,
damage me? Because you always do it. No, let's sit down. Let's talk about where this is coming from and what you can do to help me whenever you see this thing coming, because that's the only way that behavior is going to change. A lot of times you don't know where it's coming from, and they can say, every time I say this to you,
it's a trigger.
there's a trigger, and you are blind to it. And
Right.
so I've seen cases too where men have been patient enough with women who have been through such traumatic, dramatic situations, and they were actually a part of the healing process. They were able to handle, you know, the popping off and all that kind of stuff, you know, to a certain degree, not to where it's, you know, it's harmful to them, but yet, you know, she still needed some more time. And I think that happens a lot in a lot of cases as well.
I understand that because love itself is a healer. And I believe that we all have areas that we're not healed in. As a matter of fact, I was thinking about that the other day. It was a subject that we were talking about. But I'm saying that when you are so wounded that you are just really damaging and destroying everything, you don't need to be in a relationship. Where you need to be in counseling.
Yeah.
Now, if the person, now here's another thing, and I do know this to be true. God can send someone to you, as you said, who is an instrumental and a part of your healing, but they will be strong enough spiritually and psychologically. That doesn't mean they won't have their moments. They won't break down. They might need to go outside, have a big, deep breath, or punch a hole in the wall, but they will have enough strength to carry and endure and cover you. You know, they will be able to do that. But counseling, this is what I want to make it. Counseling, relationship counseling, marriage counseling, and personal counseling is essential, because some things, like you said, we don't know that we still have those things, but once they trigger and you realize that pain is there, you might be sitting down and talking to that person to see how they can help you, and that's good, but are they equipped to help you? So go get professional counseling. You need professional counseling, and you can get it individually and then go as a couple as well, because individual counseling will help each of you to deal with your issues and know how to learn to deal with each other. Then you go together as a couple for the relationship to be dealt with. So this is really important for relationships. And it's listen, there's no perfect formula. You and I both know that. There's no perfect formula, but and I think somebody said something about, they run away, I think, when they see the red flags, but I always tell people, never overlook red flags. Never overlook them. Now you can address them. You don't have to run away. You can address them to first see what this is about. You know, where is this coming from? What is this flag indicating? Because it may be something that can be resolved and overcome and healed. But if it's not, precious, do not ever be lonely enough, sad enough, desperate enough to overlook a red flag, because red flags signify something. So always look at it, address it, see where this is coming from. And then if it's something that can be worked through, worked out, you kept saying that. You said that, and I love that. You say, are you willing to put in the work? So if the person is willing to grow, they're willing to change, they're willing to address, get the counseling, pray, or whatever it is they need to do, because both people are going to have to change. Let me tell you this. If you want to be in a relationship, everybody, that's what I said, everybody gonna have to change. You're gonna have to change, because it's about ministering to each other. It's about submitting to each other. It's about ministering and caring for and sacrificing for each other. That's that partnership. That's that, biggest cheerleader thing. That's like, I got you, you got me. So I just want to encourage everybody in that.
Yes. Well, you heard it yourself from the behavioral specialist herself. And I hope that something that we've said today resonate with you, and that you would take the time to really work on yourself, opposed to just wanting to be in a relationship. When things come up, don't ignore them, don't deny them, don't run away from it, but just deal with it face to face. That's how we grow. That's how we get better. And so there's so many counselors that can help you. There's, sometimes there's a stigma in the Christian community about counseling, but get the counseling, get the help you need, as Dr. Anya has said. And, hey, great things are about to happen. So until next time, this is Dr. Victoria. I want you to share. I want you to tag a single. I want you to talk to somebody. I want you to become a part. If you'd like to become a part, I want you to contact us at admin@BossLady -network. If Taryn, if you'll put that up there, .com, so that we can reach out to you. We definitely want to hear from some of the men. So if you're interested, you can contact us at right there, or we have a couple of ways that you can reach out to us. Let us know what you think. Don't forget to like, share, and love. And until next time, I want to thank you, first of all, for being a part of History in the Making. Join us next time for Divine Connections, where we will have an entirely different topic and a different format. Until then, this is Dr. Victoria, and may you just walk right into your divine connection.